Well, welcome. We are so glad you're here for the awards ceremony for the 4th Annual Weatherford College International Piano Competition, Young Artist Division. It's been a wonderful weekend of music, and we thank you for your support of the arts here at Weatherford College. I would like to recognize the founder of the competition, the master pianist of Weatherford College, Dr. Hae-Young Song. Please welcome Dr. Hae-Young Song. I'd like to invite Mr. Dwayne Durrett to the stage and to the podium, the Dean of Fine Arts, to say a few words. Dwayne?
Thank you, Brent. It is truly an honor to have each of you talented musicians and pianists here, and our judges. Thank you so much for this hard work. It's been 2 days of exceptional music. I want to take 1 second to recognize some people. This music department has started and grown over a period of years, and I'd like to recognize some people. First off, John and Myrna Fields over here. Myrna Fields was the one who was here over the music department when I was hired, so I go way back. So thank you, Myrna, and John, thank you for all you did. Nancy McVeigh, who was over our theater department for many years, we want to thank you. And now I'd like to thank all of you from Weatherford College's heart for all your hard work, all your preparation. You know, you are finalists. There were many pianists who sent in the preliminary videos, and you know they weren't here, so we had many people interested in this competition. It's grown each year. We're so glad to be back live. This is our 4th year. The first year we had, I think, close to 40, and it was all on stage. And in 2 years of the COVID, and so we're so happy that to be back on stage. There's nothing better than be able to hear music live. Music changes lives, and it's very important that you realize the opportunities you have to study and to perform. And so now I would like to turn it back over to Brent Baker, but I want to say a great thank you to you. Thank you to the younger group yesterday from 17 years and below, and the incredible level of talent that they exhibited. Thank you so much, and there will be a 5th Weatherford College International Piano Competition. Brent?
Thank you again, Mr. Durrett. We also would like to recognize and thank again our distinguished panel of judges. They have spent much time this weekend, and we very much appreciate their expertise. Dr. Carol Leone from Southern Methodist University. Yes. Dr. Jose Ramon Mendez from Northwestern University. And Dr. Stephen Spooner from the Peabody Institute. Okay, as Mr. Durrett mentioned, we had 10 finalists for the Young Artist Division, and I'd like to invite them to come up to the stage before we announce our winners today, and we will announce them in order of performance. From Southern Methodist University, Song Hoon Jong. Come forward, please. From the Eastman School of Music, Xing Yu Yang. From Northwestern University, Ting Tang. From the University of Texas at Austin, Michael Linehan. From the Eastman School of Music, Daylin Zhang. From The Ohio State University, Chen-Yu Wang. From Indiana University, Hei-Son Jin. From the Cleveland Institute, Soo-Ji Lee. From the University of Toronto, Charlotte Tang. And from Texas Christian University, Chuan Zhao Yan. We'd like to take a photo of all of the finalists together, and we'll do that right now. Mr. Connor Lee, thank you, sir. Or do you want to do that afterwards? Okay, there we go.
Mr. Durrett, would you join us?
Thank you. Okay, it's time to announce our winners. We have one honorable mention to announce today. Congratulations to Chuan Zhao Yan. Honorable mention. And the judges have announced that there is a tie for second place. So instead of first, second, and third, we will have two second place winners. And we have a second and third place trophy. We will, of course, fix the third place trophy to also be a second place trophy. And these are in no particular order. Two second place winners. The first second place winner that I will announce is Song Hun Jong from Southern Methodist University. And our other second place winner is Tian Tang from Northwestern University. And our first place winner from the Young Artist Division of the Weatherford College International Piano Competition, from the Eastman School of Music, Xing Yu Yang. Congratulations to all of the winners and all of the participants. On behalf of Dr. Haeyong Song, Dwayne Durrett, Dr. Todd Allen Farmer, and Weatherford College, thank you for being here today. There will be a Masterclass right after this ceremony, and all three of our judges will participate in that, and that, of course, is open to the public. Please stay for that and learn from these wonderful judges. Thank you, and bless you.
Can you hear me through the microphone? Yes. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so beautiful job, and your entire program was really wonderful this morning, but we were trying to get a balance for the masterclass of different periods, so thank you so much for sitting right down cold to play your Mozart. And so I have just a few little suggestions for you, and the thing about these Mozart concertos, of course, sometimes they're orchestral, right? Sometimes they're very pianistic. Sometimes it's like playing an aria, right? And so there is that challenge, and then of course there's a challenge of playing on a modern piano and trying to get those different kinds of sounds, orchestral sounds, soloistic sounds, maybe, you know, solo wind or solo violin or whatever we're trying to imitate, or maybe we're trying to just imitate a beautiful piano sound. But at the same time, we have to deal with the dynamic markings that we're given, and of course with Mozart, they're just a little bit plain, you know, usually just forte or piano. So in this case, with this very challenging sonata movement, that's one of the most virtuosic sonatas, you have some contrasts, just almost black and white, you know, solo, tutti kind of thing, right? I recommend that you not rely heavily on the una corda pedal for those moments that are supposed to be piano, because I don't necessarily think what he's wanting there is a muted sound, but actually just more of maybe a soloistic sound as opposed to tutti, right? So that's one thing I would avoid, is having something that's just so black and white, forte and then pianissimo, right? Because what we always want to do in these places that our piano is continue to sing and have a, you know, a singing cantabile. So that's the general thing. I think your tempo is great, allegro con spirito, that's fine. With Mozart, we do want to understand whether we're playing in 2 or in 4 or in 1. And sometimes that shifts depending on the harmonic movement, so the harmonic rhythm. If there is a slow harmonic rhythm and the harmonies are continuing for a long time without shifting to a new harmony, then, you know, we have to think about how many accents are we going to actually have. But of course, if you have a lot of harmonic shifting, that might change how many times you actually have emphasis. So those are some general considerations. But I would like to just pick at a few little things. So let's just start from the beginning and I'll stop you, okay? Okay, great. It's always that first phrase that we can spend so much time on, right? So, you know, we're still in that period of music when a roll on a chord can be considered to be like a Baroque approach of an ornament and would actually be on the beat. Yeah, so I would put my pedal down and diddle-dum, but play the thumb with your left hand and see how that sounds. Right, so of course it doesn't mean that the thumb is the accented note. So let's just, without pedal and without left hand, just play the chord, the rolled chord. Yes, and we want to hear each of the notes clearly. Yeah, that's it, that's right. Okay, and go to the top. Diddle-dum, diddle-dum. Right, but now let's play it on the beat with the left hand and the pedal. Yeah, that's actually quite nice. It's not, of course, going to sound exactly like an orchestra would sound, but it does give it a fullness that would imply that it's more orchestral. And let's think about exactly when that second beat is going to occur, because the second beat is silence, right? So, okay, prepare it, play our downbeat, play the silence, and then just play for me to the beginning of the second measure. So just that first statement. Okay, good, good. So what I recommend here in a hall, I think that the best thing to do would be to play legato over the group of 4 and a little bit of just so that you have the clarity in a live hall. Okay, if you're in a dry space, maybe not. Every one of the 3 notes. Ta-da-dum. Good. Good. Now, I wouldn't play those all the same volume either. What might you do with those 3 beats?
Like going to the A.
Yeah, so maybe start a little less. Diddle-diddle-diddle-dum. Yes. Right, what we want to do is ask a question. Okay, so we start in D major and then we ask a question. Bum, bum, bum. So start a little bit less and make it sound, instead of, what we don't want to hear is just ticka 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 ta. We want to hear harmony, we want to hear shape. I think you started that a little too loudly. Right, so of course, forte doesn't mean that every note within that section is forte, right? It just means that the general sound is strong, but always shape. Diddle 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 dum. So all the way through, okay? Let's play it again, and this time go on. Okay. Yes, so be careful that your staccatos aren't too short or tight. So you do still want to sound like each note has some body to it. I think that's much more beautiful. Yes. And now, after that gesture, you have the 2-note slur. There's so much happening in your right hand just in these 2 bars. Can you play the right hand alone right there? Don't play so short that it doesn't have any substance. Yes. Note that there are no staccatos on those 8th notes. Right. My suggestion for you, my advice, would be to play the 2-note slur instead of playing it with crossed fingers, because it's really hard to get your weight shifted properly. I would put my 4th finger there so that you can play more balanced and really figure out how to melt into the 2nd note. So you could play. Sure, there's plenty of time to get down there. You could even use your 3rd if you want to. 3-2. And always think about a group of 4 16th notes going toward the next beat. So instead of thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, always think we're going toward the next thing. Let me see this A. So that would be the loudest note. Yes, and you could play da-dum, or you could play da-dum. Either one is really correct. So that's a little bit more of taste. Okay, go ahead and now play this with a lighter left hand, because there's so much you want to be able to do in the right hand. You want to be able to have quite a bit of variation in sound and touch. So that left hand has to be so soft, right? That's a problem of playing on the modern piano. This part of our piano is so different from that part of Mozart's piano that, it's just so much heavier. It's kind of woofy, woof, 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 right? So you just try to be delicate with your left hand. Yeah, but not so. Can you put a little weight? Yeah, that's it. We're talking about length of the note, not so much volume, okay? I think it's perfectly okay to play your left hand legato. So not leggero in the touch. If you play too short in the left hand, it draws attention to the left hand. Okay, so think of your left hand as just a delicate harmony. Let's hear the left hand by itself, just legato but soft. Right, so we want our thumb to be particularly soft, but we can still have a bass line, right? That's better. Okay, try with a singing right hand now. That's much better, yes. The only thing I would have done would have made that downbeat A more generous. Right. Okay, so that's your answer. Your question is actually posed by the larger ensemble. The answer is given by the soloist. Okay? So let's go ahead and play with vigor the question and the answer now. The answer is sweeter, and the question is a little bit more full in sound, right? Yes, start with your pedal down. That's good, yes. And then we pose the question again. And answer again. Good. So, one has to ask, is this the beginning of this phrase? Or is this? Probably, since the dynamic changes here, I think this is the end. And now, a new idea, right? So finish this idea and then start a new one. Good. So these Mozart trills should start on the upper note. Okay, there are some exceptions. This would not be an exception since we're approaching it from silence. We really want to hear the appoggiatura, the upper note. Okay. I didn't really hear the upper note. Okay, so again, you're using your crossed fingering. I think that's okay, but maybe you want to put a little weight on that thumb first and just linger slightly. Good, good. So now we really are told to play staccato in the left hand, and then that's almost like, wind instruments. Do, 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 do. Not too short, just attached, okay? Like some wind instrument that's just tonguing those do, 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 and keep singing out. That trill should be like melody notes, okay? Don't just think, but think of it as something you might even have to sing, right? Or think of it maybe as a clarinet might have to play. It's not a percussive thing at all, right? Singing. Good, good, excellent, yeah, much better. Now, what should we do at the end of that phrase? Bum, bee, da, da, dum, bum. It goes up again, right? It's imitating. We had. It's not as loud, but it's one step below. So you don't want to do a diminuendo at the end. You have a little crescendo at the end. Very good. All right. Yes. So now it's the soloist that posed the question. Bum dee da dum 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 dee da dum dum dum. And then now you're going to have your full violin section answering. Diddle 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 diddle, right? Okay, so that needs to be almost an immediate response of something that's more full. Personally, I would play the second statement of the question a little louder. Bum bum dee, dum dum dee. It's loud, it's higher, right? And it's, harmonically more intense. Yes, right. So now we're just having a lot of fun, and we're going back and forth, tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant. It's quite energetic, and don't know that you actually need to have that echo. I'm not sure that if you were conducting an orchestra, you were rehearsing the orchestra and it was a symphony, and that little detail would be put in there in this sort of place that's sort of building up, right? So let's just try that. I love the energy that you gave that scale then, that really helps. So let's just start with the left-hand scale. It goes right into the right hand, and just keep going all the way to the end. That's right. Yes, exactly. Right. So Mozart, of course, can be very vigorous, right? We don't always have to be delicate with Mozart, but we have to just be careful about the texture, right? If your left hand, when you're playing loudly, if your left hand gets too loud, then it becomes too thick and heavy. So try to give your right hand lots of leeway to go up and down without the left hand drowning it out. That happened a little bit to you this morning, where your left hand was just a little too loud, and so your right hand couldn't have as much shape as maybe would be helpful to you. Now that was rather exciting all the way to there. Then you can take just the tiniest little breath and go on, okay? We don't have time for lots more, but I'm trying to give you like how I would work through all of this in terms of thinking solo, tutti, and melody, accompaniment. So let's just do a little bit more. Yeah, so how to play, is that a grace note? I wouldn't play it too fast. I wouldn't play it like a grace note so much, but more like what you might do vocally. That's better. Okay, so how often are you going to have an emphasis here? Obviously, we have downbeat emphasis, and also there's the dissonance, right? And so we need an emphasis there. Is there another place that you might want an emphasis besides the downbeat? Mm-hmm. Okay, so why don't you go to the top a little bit more? That's a four-note slur. And it's a leap up. So I think you do need one there as well. Yeah, that's really quite good. You might not want to use your arm on every single one of those. I would probably prefer to shape it as an entire group with my arm. Dee da 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 da. First play it legato. Right. So that's sort of the romanticized version of it. Now play, yeah, and I asked you to do exactly that. Okay, now play a detached version that still has that shape. That's it. Sure, and relax while you're doing it. Da da dee da da. The same weight emphasis that you gave it, but just let it bounce. That's so beautiful. Yes. Does that feel a little better than, because this feels a little tight. Every time you see staccato, you know, I think it's forcing you into something that is rather tense. But these staccatos should feel very, very lyrical for the most part, right? I mean, every once in a while we get something that's a little different, but okay, let's go ahead and finish out the exposition. Yes, I also want to bring out one other point, technical point about playing Mozart. Sometimes we want to be on our fingertips, and sometimes we can be on our finger pads. What, in this section, what might be good with finger pad?
I think that the answer, the 45.
Show me. Yeah, so yeah, I think, yeah, those quarter notes, those legato quarter notes. So rather than, you know, that's something like it's like that, but yeah, that's so that we can actually feel a slight overlap, right? You can play slightly overlapped there, and that's going to help you cut through that left hand. Right. Right, so something like the little triplets, you might want to be up on the fingertips to really get that clean sound, right? Let's hear the dum dilam bum pia daya. Right, and also you're going to get a little bit better sound if you assist your fingers with a little bit of rotation. Yes. And then use your arm, or your hand. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that should be legato. Dum, yada. Right. Yeah, so you might want to get yourself to your thumb. Thumb dee doo, thumb dee. Yes, I know that it seems a little counterintuitive, but it's not connected. It's actually disconnected. Yeah, I wouldn't use the soft pedal. However, it's a little staccato for me. I don't see any staccatos there. Okay, you're right. I mean, your top of your sixth sounds better than the bottom. Can you make them both sound? Here, let's do it two-handed for a moment. The sixths with two hands. Yes, a little bit of a slower release. Deal, deal, deal. Not dee, yeah, yeah. If you have to sneak a little pedal in there, if you did it ever so carefully, it would be okay. Just for practice, can you bring the bottom out instead of the top? Right, so don't allow any of that to sound non-legato. If there's one that you can't play legato, use your pedal there. Right there. That's it. Okay, so that's the kind of thing. I think you're kind of using a little bit of an easy way out, just putting the soft pedal down, when actually that was just a little bit out of context, that sound that you were getting there. So we actually still want it to sing, and we don't want the staccatos. Should be very, very beautiful, like very comforting, rather than playful, right? Okay, so we've gotten to the end of the exposition, and you were so responsive. Thank you so much. And bravo, bravo.
gonna try this today. Bravo, bravo, really. You play so beautifully, and I agree with so many things that you do. And it's a very mature interpretation without any kind of affectation, with any superficial music making. It's all very honest, it's all very sincere, and very beautiful, very well crafted. So you were probably wondering, so what am I going to say? I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this is so well prepared and so well done. But when you play Chopin for anybody, for any professor, we're all going to have very strong opinions, because for pianists, as you know, Chopin is very special. So rather than telling you what I don't think you did right or something like that, I'm just going to share with you what my own feelings might be. So your interpretation is fantastic and is very well packaged. I just have perhaps a couple of different ideas. So my first idea relates to your sound. And you have a fantastic sound. I love that it's very healthy, it's very robust, it's very round. My personal opinion is that at times your sound is a little bit more Brahmsian than it is Chopin-esque. And what I mean by this is that, especially in the bigger moments, you have such a natural facility to play. But in this instrument, I think at times your left hand needs a little better careful voicing, because it's very easy for the texture to become a little too thick. And if you were playing Brahms, I would not even be talking about that. But I just don't think it's the type of sound that we need for Chopin. So even though we need the support from the basses, even though we need, I think the lyrical quality of Chopin is slightly different than the orchestral quality of Brahms. So I find that sometimes, as good as your tone is, it might not be the appropriate tone for some moments. So that's my first observation. My second observation has to do with certain opportunities for different color, and color relating to touch, and sometimes maybe pedaling. I think that it's a Polonaise fantasy. And the fantasy has to do, in my mind, in my personal opinion, with a certain sense of sound world, almost as if Chopin is telling us a very personal story that we will never know what it is about. And he's going from, I call them landscapes of the soul. You go from one mood to another mood to another mood, and every one of those has to have its own way of being played, its own tone, its own sound. So the danger is to have a very good generic sound that we apply for this or that, but we have to be, especially in this piece where Chopin is being so adventurous harmonically, I think we have to be very sensitive with how the harmony and the different moods can be expressed with a different color and also even a different timing. So I'm not gonna keep talking about it, and I just want you to start at the beginning, and I'm going to be very annoying and interrupt when I think of something, okay? Okay, it's a terrible, terrible place to interrupt you. Two things. Do not start thinking after you finish the first arpeggio. I know you have to get yourself to the next thing. Resist the temptation to hear or think about what comes next too soon. I rather, as a member of the audience, I'd rather sit there wondering what you're going to do next than for you to somewhat with your body language or even with your internal ear telegraphing that you're going to do another set of chords, right? Yes. So it's a very minor, but I think even visually for the audience it might be helpful to have an idea of almost improvisation, right? And then you have two sets of chords. They're slightly different because the harmonies are different, yes. Right? And I can feel that, you feel that. I was wondering if there was something, you could do something very subtle with the timing of the second ta-dam, pam. There is something, personally, I would delay it slightly, just to make it very different. So, I'm not saying that that's the right way. I just don't want the chords ta-dam-dam, ti-dam-dam to be exactly the same, or I know you don't feel them the same, but they come across very similar. So perhaps something with the timing. You want to try it? I would do that. I'm not saying that's what it has to be. The only wrong answer is don't do them exactly with the same timing. For me, that would be wrong. Okay. It's beautiful. I would say these ones, perhaps the small difference in the timing, because you obviously are already creating very beautiful colors. Have you considered the timing of starting the arpeggio? Maybe I would not wait too much for it. And then just an idea. You could play around a little bit with, so that it's not so predictable that you're going to do the chord and then the arpeggio starts exactly where we expected. Just be a little bit unexpected. Try from the E flat minor. of balance and voicing. But to me, to my taste, this sits a little bit. It's a little vertical. So forget beats, think lines. You wanna try that? Yeah, so I'm actually kind of like pushing you towards moments of tension because especially in the second note of lines, you start a line and the second note sits too long. It's like we're in quicksand. We can't get out. So I think of this a little bit more flowy, even though there are so many changes of harmony, but you're such a good pianist, you can show us those changes of harmony without signaling them. And then we can hear more of that kind of like. Let's go from pop 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 pop. For me, maybe too much bass. Maybe for me because then we're gonna hear that pop 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 pop. We're gonna hear it an octave higher. I don't think I would show too much me. It's too much for me. For me, I have to understand why we get to this so beautiful da-da-da-yi-da-dam-ba-da-dee-da. And I think the secret is on the previous phrase. When you get into the C, we have to think that we're going somewhere already. It's not like that to me that makes sense. That outburst of emotion. You wanna try that? Right, and maybe go from this. I cannot play it, but there is something about your left hand. You're not voicing as much as I would like. So I would do the little diminuendo that you do, but I would not stop. So just just continue for me. Okay, thank you. you do this. Can you start that? It's very beautiful. So I'm gonna give you kind of like something to think about. First of all, consider what part of your fingers you're using for melodies, and what type of sound you want. I think sometimes you like to lock your wrist down and use the tip of the finger, but that prevents your arm from helping in shaping. And then the other thing that I would say, don't just listen to your melody. Listen to what the left hand is doing in terms of harmony, because you can find the color that you're looking for if you kind of make a compromise between voice leading in the top and harmony in the bottom, and especially those chords sometimes are interesting. So just do that, and then I want to hear the same passage, but later on when it's in a different key. Right. So I want to see how you show me that those two have complete different tones. Right. So if you want the first one a little bit more full. Then the second one. It should be more resigned, right? Try something like that. Don't take too much time. Tell you before we have to stop. For me, in your coda, I think that your octaves, I think that you can have more of an idea of flying on those octaves, and avoid having too many. It's so easy to get excited, right? I mean, it is the climax. But sometimes when we get excited, we get also physically tight, and we start making too many accents. You want to get into the very end, so just if your octave
all do it, it's so difficult, but try to hear harmonic functions whenever you get to these big moments, these big chords. Think, okay, am I hearing pure E flat? Am I hearing pure A flat? Because I think some of them have a very harmonic importance. So we want to sound big, we want to sound majestic, but we don't want to sound noisy, right? And then at the end, when you get to with the trios in the left hand, I think there is, right? Is there? Yes. You were trying to keep them so quiet that I couldn't hear a little bit of the shoulders. It's like a fire thunder. When you do the crescendo, change the height of your wrist. But otherwise, that becomes kind of like just simply flat, and I think that little tension, it's very beautiful. Anyway, there's just little details. Congratulations, really, really amazing.
Is you're good? Yeah. You must be tired.
A little bit tired.
Yeah. I'll use the mic, okay, so people can hear. I'm your big fan.
Really?
Yeah, you play beautifully, really. I'm the fan of many of our competitors, but I can tell that you're very dedicated to the piano, and you practice. Yeah, you practice very well. You're very creative. And I hate to even say things, you know? Because you're playing so, not only well, you have a sort of an organic way of approaching this music, and all of it matches. You know what I mean? And so I heard Alfred Brendel give a class where he said, I cannot tell you the truth. I can just tell you my truth. And I'm about to say something that I normally would never say in a master class, because usually in a master class I'm dealing with the content. But I think it might be something valuable for you. You know, you're a wonderful pianist, you don't miss. You make beautiful sounds on a piano. I know I played a concert on this piano. This piano doesn't do you any favors, I will say. So, and so I can tell that you're really very thoughtful in everything you're doing. But, and this is a big but. How do I put this? I think one thing that you should aim for is not being a good pianist, but being really great. And you have to dare to be great. There is an element in your playing that I would just caution you against, and that is being predictable and being too much the same. You know, one thing that I think is similar in the piano playing of really the greatest pianists is that there is contradiction in their playing. You know, whenever I get a new recording of Richter, I never know what he's going to do in a piece that I've never heard. I can say the same, like I'm surprised sometimes when I listen to Rubinstein, how he approaches each piece a little differently. There's not like a style that he plays in. And so one thing that I love about your playing is its flexibility. But it's also the same thing that I wish could be varied. You know, Richter heard a concert of Lupu once, and he said, you know, this guy plays so beautifully. He has such a beautiful sound, and he plays with such lyricism. He said, but I know what the rest of the concert is going to sound like from the very first phrase. He's like, in other words, he brings to me the entire meal on a single tray. So I see, there are no surprises. And I think we could introduce just a couple of things which would not only make this piece better, it would make your Schumann better. You know what I mean? I'll remind you. Now, I've learned that your teacher's from St. Petersburg Conservatory. Yes? Antonova? Yes. And I went to Moscow. So, you know, those two institutions are different in the way that they think about music. And of course, you know, Prokofiev went to St. Petersburg. However, his two favorite pianists were both in Moscow. Do you know who he entrusted most of his premieres to? Oh, it's important. Because these two pianists not only played Prokofiev's premieres, but they coached the pieces with Prokofiev. And those two pieces were Gilels and Richter. And this set that you're playing featured, in fact, several of them Richter played many times. Prokofiev knew Richter's playing so well that he was even listening to Richter when he was a student. And I think one thing that Prokofiev appreciated about Richter's playing was that he pointed out the neoclassicism of this piece. And the one thing that I would say is that when I hear you play this music, sometimes the gestures and the color suggest to me not Prokofiev, but Scriabin, because of its flexibility. And that would be the only thing. Now, I would say this, you have to do everything on your own terms. But I wonder if we could just go over a couple of little things. You play beautifully. That's all I want to tell you is, I would say, in your piano playing, especially when you're playing so wonderfully, you want to make sure in your playing to examine all of the expressive possibilities. You know, I would listen to pianists that you don't like to learn something. You know, I hate Sirkin. I do. I'll be the first one to say it. I've tried many times to like Sirkin. But you know what I did? I realized that maybe there's something missing in me. So I went and bought every Sirkin CD, and I listened to them like a study. And I tried to learn something. I think I learned a lot. It gave me something. And I would say, in our piano playing, don't shy away from things that you say, oh, I'm not sure I like that. I like it this way. Because then we will become more comprehensive as an artist. The same thing I will tell you about, you know, the great violin teacher, Dorothy DeLay. You know, she would make a list. Whenever she was working with a student, she would make a list of names. And the list of names would be like Toscanini, Heifetz, and Milstein, and Chrysler, and various people. And then she would ask herself, she would say, what would Toscanini say about this playing? And that would be a different answer. And what would Heifetz say about this playing? Oh, vibrato should be faster, tempo should be faster, more in tune. What would Chrysler say about this playing? Maybe some sliding, maybe, you know, what would Milstein say about this playing? You see what I mean? Yes. And so I would do this in your Prokofiev. I think your Prokofiev could be, as beautiful as it is, it could be less beautiful. Less. And I mean intense, sometimes ridiculous. Ridiculous. Let's work on it a little bit. From the beginning, yeah. And you've got to watch out for this C, because it will give you some unexpected things. You hear that E? That is not a sound. That's not a sound you want, I think. And I wonder if we could go to one place in the phrase. Yeah, no accents. Do you hear how you land on that E? Yes. That's probably something we don't want to do. Do you know the word bleak? Yes. I wonder if this music could be more bleak, not so expressive. Bleak, winter. And maybe not so impressionistic, you know? This, to me, sounds like Ninth Sonata of Prokofiev. Simple, lyrical, but yet imbued with sadness. Yam pirati tim poru this was so beautifully played. I love the color and the pedaling that you did here. It's just your opening phrase didn't make a lot of sense to me. I didn't feel a destination, and I felt like it was in pieces, the phrases, which is very un-Prokofiev.
That's my thought.
Yeah. I loved your second one. I thought it was beautiful. I wonder if could we go dee-da-da-dum, bee-da-da-dum. One little suggestion. Please don't feel this in 3. Because you're feeling 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Bum, bum. Feel it in 1, and please faster.
Okay.
Don't be afraid of missing notes. This has to be a little wild, you know? What's the dynamic? What's the dynamic? Oh.
Mezzo forte?
Yeah, so it strikes me that you're starting too softly.
Yeah, because I want to light to dark. So that's
Yeah, but the character started, like, instead of it feeling intense, it felt to me a little bit cute. Like, da-da-da-da. And I don't think nothing cute about this music. Yes, this is going to be a really sort of abstract piece. I wonder if can it be a little uglier? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Not slower, not slower. Yeah. One. More. Frozen. Flat. Not slower. You play too much with the tempos. Right in time, like a clock. Precise. You know, my teacher actually studied with Prokofiev. That was a weird thing. You know, I had a lesson with him. I was playing for him, and he made some comment. And later I said, where did you get that idea? He said, oh, Prokofiev told me. And I was like, what? You studied with Prokofiev? And he said, yeah, the first time I went to Prokofiev's house, his regular teacher, who was Khachaturian, he told him, don't be late because Prokofiev gets pissed off if you're late. So he shows up early. Okay, he knocks on the door. Prokofiev opens the door. He looks at his watch. He closes the door in his face. So at exactly the time he knocks on the door, Prokofiev opens the door. He goes, oh, you're right on time. This kind of precision. I think that story shows us something very much about Prokofiev. That this kind of flexibility that you sometimes show, I think is not always necessary. And I would play this faster and right in time, like a clock. Yeah? This will be a very nice contrast to all of the beauty that you give me, you know? It's too slow. The tempo is too slow. Dee-da-ba-bum, dee-da-ba-bum. Let's just try it, this tempo, okay? No, from the beginning. Dee-da-ba-bum. Faster. Don't be afraid. Not soft. Don't overdo. Frozen. By the way, there's a video of Richter playing this.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
His face, when he gets to that moment, is unforgettable. Because he is frozen. He is frozen. And, you know, that's what I mean. How about again, in time? and cute, maybe. Cute. Not Scriabin, in other words. But how about dee-dom, ba-da-dee-da-da? One has to consider that these tempos came from Prokofiev, because Gilels and Richter were playing for Prokofiev. It's like one removed from Prokofiev, because we don't have some of these of Prokofiev playing. But I would say, yeah, maybe a little less of that. Yeah? Good trill. In the key. In the key. Yeah. And maybe not an accent on C. Yeah. Not slower. You're adding a beat there. Yum ba bum ba 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 bum. Yep. Bum. Yeah. You have to review that, because each time you add an eighth. Yum ba don da dee da da dum. Yeah? So, and then how about yata da da dim ba da dee dum ba yapa ba ba bum be da 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 dum ra pa 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 dum ba da dee da dum ra ta ka ka ka. The way you're playing that sounds like it might be some weird Haydn. Can it be more audacious, more outrageous, like clown music? Yappa pa pa dum da 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 dim yappa bum bum rap. Now, you realize that Prokofiev puts a long pedal here, but you don't do it. So yeah, that's what I mean. Please do it. Prokofiev plays the modern piano. It's not like Beethoven. You know, he knows what he wants. So because it makes it audacious. So that's what I think I'm missing. Now, you're so gifted. You play so well. Those things I really honestly think that if you did them in your own way, you could make them yours, you know? And that would give a different kind of flavor to your playing. And as I said, it would make your whole program stronger, because then your program would have contradiction. You play Prokofiev like neoclassical. Then Schumann is, as Horowitz said, the most romantic, you know, composer. Then you play another composer in a totally different way. Remember, as Neuhaus said, we're not interested in playing the piano well. We're interested in making piano playing contagious. Like, we have to hear it. And so I would recommend just thinking about it like that. You know what I mean? And just study it. And again, you don't want to copy, because we don't need another Richter. We need you. But you can learn. You can take things from them. And I think that it's important, especially in Russian piano playing, that Prokofiev sounds like Prokofiev, Rachmaninoff sounds like Rachmaninoff, and Scriabin sounds like Scriabin. In fact, they have nothing to do with one another. Nothing. Do you know, and I'll finish with this, do you know the last time Prokofiev and Rachmaninoff ever talked to one another? They hated each other, actually. It was over, it was a very interesting story. Scriabin had died, and Rachmaninoff played the memorial recital for Scriabin. And after the concert, Prokofiev came backstage, and he said, "You did not try to enter into the spirit of Scriabin at all, who is your friend and classmate. Instead, you gave us sober Rachmaninoff. I'm sure Rachmaninoff didn't appreciate that comment. But it says something very, very interesting about how each of these artists are very different. They cut very different, how should I say, silhouettes in music. And I think you could learn from that. The best way to do it is listen. Listen. All of this piano music, symphonies, chamber music, it really absorb it. And then I think your Prokofiev could be even better. But as I said, I'm your huge fan. I really love what you're doing, and I congratulate you. Okay? Yeah.